I was watching that scene where they were telling Anna Marie about Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I was like, shit, this is what it's like when I hear someone explain our podcast. Like when someone introduces me, oh yeah, he's got this podcast, and they're telling somebody about it. I'm like, oh, that's us. That we are Dave and Chainsaw.
We are.
Remember when we first met John McClane? Argyle picked him up from the plane and took him down to Nakatomi Tower at the Christmas party. And the terrorists were overzealous, but it was sweet when they killed Ellis. And with a little help from Alan, John McClane kicked ass.
Welcome back to Shat the Movies, the podcast where we answer the question, were the movies we loved when we were growing up really that good? Have you ever caught yourself thinking, why don't they make movies like they used to? Can you still remember spending your Friday night searching for the perfect movie rental at Blockbuster Video? Do you know what Blockbuster Video is? If you answered yes, then this is the podcast for you. I am one of your hosts, Gene Lyons, and alongside me is my co-host, Big D, Dick Ebert.
Good evening.
And each week we take a look back in time, decide if our favorite films still hold up. The movies we cover are chosen by you, the listeners, who generously commission the films you love. If you like to see all the movies we have covered, will cover, want to choose one for yourself, please visit shatpod.com and have a look. At the end of each podcast, we'll provide you, the audience, with the number of wipes each movie take to get off your respective butts. So thank you so much for listening. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button and share with a friend. It's how we help the podcast grow. Additionally, subscribe to our sister podcast, Shat on TV, where we review TV series such as Westworld, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, True Detective, Lovecraft Country, and Watchmen. Find all that information and past episodes at shatpod.com/TV. And finally, if you would like to hang out with us live, follow and subscribe to our Twitch channel, shatpod.com/Twitch, and our YouTube channel where we play video games, host watch parties, and edit this podcast live. All that being said, Big D, what movie are we reviewing tonight?
Gene, tonight's movie is one of those weeks that's light, happy, easy to do, nostalgic. It's not a heavy film. It's not something we have to do a lot of work on. This is one of those summer movies that brings back a lot of great memories. It was nice to go back and revisit it here for our listener, Patrick M., a fellow Long Island, New York guy who wrote in to commission the 1987 American comedy Summer School.
Manhasset represent, Patrick. Patrick wrote in and said, what up, guys? I'm Patrick. I'm a 27-year-old from Long Island, New York. Oh, he's a youngster.
Youngin'.
And I commissioned Summer School. The first time I saw it had to be on one of those movie cable channels on demand one day in about 6th or 7th grade. I used to just crush any movie that was on there, and this one always seemed to be streaming on one of them. By the time I was in high school, it seemed like such a common movie to me that it shocked me when only my history teacher knew it. His history teacher is probably our age. Looking back, it makes sense. Is it a masterpiece? No way. Is it fun? Hell yeah. Did I want to be Chainsaw and Dave when I was in school? Who didn't? Anyway, nostalgically looking back, I'd give this movie a 1 wipe. After watching it, I'd say it's truthfully a 3.5. Anyway, keep up the good work, and thanks for taking a trip down a boring, rainy summer middle school afternoon with me. And that comes from Patrick.
So I'm doing the quick math, Gene. If he is 27, I'm going to guess he was born 98, 99. This movie came out 87. So let's say this was 21 years before he was born, and he's watching this.
Yeah.
That would be like me being into like movies from 52.
Yeah.
It's kind of odd, you know. It's just to go back and put it in perspective like that. It would be like me saying, "Man, you know what I really love? That monkey business." I got to tell you, that monkey business is just something else.
Rebel Without a Cause.
Oh, All Quiet on the Western Front or The Quiet Man. Woo! Road to Bali. I love that shit. Woo. It just seems so different.
There's just somewhere out there. There are some dudes who are exactly like 20 years older than us doing a podcast about Shat the Movies from the 50s.
Exactly.
That's our next adventure.
Yeah, I'll tell you that Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis, the Stooges, that was a banger, Gene. We got to go back and do that.
Well, listeners, Summer School is a 1987 comedy directed by Carl Reiner and starring Mark Harmon as a high school gym teacher who is forced to teach a remedial English class during the summer. The film co-stars Kirstie Alley and Courtney Thorne-Smith. The original music score was composed by none other than Danny Elfman. So, unlike Patrick, I discovered this film immediately when it came out on VHS. My cousin rented it, and every household back in the 80s had their favorite funny man. you were a Bill Murray household or a Steve Martin household or a John Candy household. In our household, it was Mark Harmon. And he didn't have a lot of comedies in the 80s. Like, he did a lot of different kinds of movies, but comedy-wise, there were really only two standouts. There was 1989's Worth Winning, which, if you haven't seen it, is absolutely fantastic. That's one where he makes a bet and he has to get the woman to agree to marry him. Mm-hmm. And there's like multiple women that he's doing this con on. And then there was this movie, 1987's Summer School. And as a 7-year-old in Arizona in the 80s, we didn't have the money to like travel a whole lot. So I had never seen the beach. I didn't know what high school was like. Obviously, I was 7 years old. I'd never even seen a horror movie at that point or played with fireworks or been to an amusement park. So I watched this movie and everything looked like so much fun. And then there was Mark Harmon. And Mark Harmon, there's a reason why he did like kids shows, right? He has this vibe. He's like the Elmo of actors, right? Kids are just instantly interested in him. He makes you feel good just looking at him. And this one was on repeat at our house.
So for me, I think this summer, doing the math, I was about 13, 14. This is the age where the summers, our parents left us alone. And we had the Mamaroneck Playhouse 4. We used to go prop the back door open and we would sneak in and watch 2 or 3 movies. So most of these films in the year of 87, going back and look, it's blown my mind. We've talked about before the legendary year of 84. The summer of 87, incredible, Gene. I'm going to run through a quick list here. Starting in June, Harry and the Hendersons, The Untouchables, Predator, Witches of Eastwick, Roxanne, Spaceballs, Full Metal Jacket, Dragnet, Inner Space, Adventures in Babysitting, Revenge of the Nerds 2, Jaws the Revenge, RoboCop, Superman 4, then Summer School, then continued on Lost Boys, a bunch of other big movies. Masters of the Universe came out, Back to the Beach, The Monster Squad, North Shore, Can't Buy Me Love, Garbage Pail Kids, Dirty Dancing, banger fucking year. So I definitely saw this in the summer of 87, Mamaroneck Playhouse 4, but it just blurs into all of them, to be honest. But I've had fond memories of this. I also remember Mark Harmon, a very handsome, charismatic guy. It was great to go back. And this was a carefree movie from a carefree summer and a carefree part in my life. So thank you, Patrick, very much for the support and commissioning it. And hopefully we can do it justice.
And Patrick, this commission reminds me of why I love that we moved to the commission format. I mean, aside from the huge money that we're making, and Big D and I are living quite lavishly, but if we had stuck to our voting, right, I don't know if this movie ever would have come up, because some of those movies that Big D mentioned, we have not done yet, right? We have not done some 87 movies that are much bigger than this one, Harry and the Hendersons, for instance. But it holds a special place for you. And it's always cool to see these smaller movies that hold a special place for me and have that connection with the listener. So really appreciate you doing this one. Let's hit the trailer.
You know what we need? I mean, besides bread, we need a woman who appreciates what we have to offer.
Freddy Shoop loves to cut class, hates to do homework, lives for summer vacation.
Look, Freddy, you're a semi-charming guy and a real snappy dresser. You're just not the kind of guy I date anymore.
Yeah? What kind of guy you dating now?
Oh, the kind who wears socks.
And the only reason he hasn't been expelled yet is because he's the gym teacher.
Oh, Mr. Shoop.
At Oceanfront High.
Congratulations. You've been chosen to teach summer school. No, I'm not a real teacher. That's all right. These aren't real students. They're unmotivated, irresponsible, not too bright. They'll relate to you.
You in this class too?
I'm teaching them.
No way!
Right off the bat, you show them who's in charge. Please take your seats.
Where should we take him?
Who is in charge?
I recommend this time I pass.
You're gonna do well, Jerome. I can feel it.
I've seen some of your students. Very scary.
There's a very valid reason for summer vacation. The human brain needs rest.
I know you guys aren't exactly fired up about English, but we're stuck here. We're trapped like rats.
Tension breaker had to be done.
Mark Harmon,
You need an intelligent, sensitive man who can skate.
Kirstie Alley,
Do you know such a guy?
Oh, they're hard to find.
and the Oceanfront High summer school class of 87.
They're as smart as you and me.
You and I.
All of us.
Paramount Pictures presents a new film by Carl Reiner, Summer School.
I love this film. It had passion, it had plucky spirit. Dave, I agree with you. Thumbs up from me. Same here. To sum it up, I'm Chainsaw. I'm Dave. We'll see you at the movies.
On the last day of school before summer vacation, PE teacher Freddy Shoop is preparing for a vacation to Hawaii with his girlfriend, Kim. Vice Principal Phil Gills hands out paper slips informing several underachievers that they must attend summer school for remedial English. Among those students are the easily distracted Pam House, nocturnal Larry Cosimas, a male stripper, football jock Kevin Winchester, pregnant Rhonda Altabello, geeky Alan Eakin, dyslexic Denise Green, intimidating Jerome Watkins, and two horror film obsessed underachievers, Dave Frazier and Francis Gremp, aka Chainsaw. The teacher scheduled to lead the class unexpectedly wins the lottery, so Gills seeks an emergency replacement. He corners Shoop, blackmailing him into taking the job. Kim goes by herself to Hawaii, despite Shoop's pleas for her to stay. So the entire chain of events in this film that lands Shoop in summer school with all these kids who aren't doing so well in school, it starts when the regular summer school teacher who does remedial English wins the lottery. He really wins like a scratcher, right? Yeah. It's $50,000. I remembered it being a lot more. It was like $1 million. And so I did the math. And in 1987, $50,000 was about 2 years' salary for a teacher. The average teacher made about $26,000, right? And that got me to thinking, would I quit my job if I won double my salary? Not saying quit working entirely, but would I like leave my job? And I think for double my salary, that's a lot of time to find a new job or start something up yourself. I think I would. Would you?
You're not even talking about taxes being taken out of it. So just the scratcher was 50 grand.
Yeah.
No, there's no way. You can't leave your job for this.
Not for 50 grand, for double your current salary.
No, still no chance. No.
Really?
No, because you get my age when you're getting so close to retirement, you got to keep making some money because you got to live off it. I did some rough math here with a pencil and a piece of paper. 12 times my salary. Yes. Then I could do it because I would invest it. If I could do 8%, something conservative investments, then I could live off of the money that I've made from there without touching the rest of my retirement. So I would do that.
Hear me out. You get double your salary, okay? Mm-hmm. You take 6 months off of work, dedicate it solely to building up the podcast, to do the podcast for a living, right? Get advertisers, you maybe get not that your web work isn't great, but get a pro web crew, a marketing team, maybe something like that. You could do this for a living, Big D. You gotta roll the dice, baby. No?
I gotta win the scratch off first, Gene.
Yeah, but let's say you got double. No, not rolling. I would do it in a heartbeat.
Yeah,
I'd be the next Joe Rogan.
You see, it's a hard thing because when you have kids, it becomes, college has come. It's like college is like a runaway train, and I'm on the tracks. It becomes a harder decision to do that because you have to plan for the future. But
that's where the Army comes in.
What do you mean by that?
It's put Emma in the Army.
I don't know. Air Force, maybe. She's got to be in a safe place.
Space Force.
Space Force is probably the safest.
Coast Guard?
Yeah, maybe. That's a pretty safe one. I mean, you're going after some people doing some poaching or out there who aren't following the safety procedures of the seas. Maybe tow some people back into land. You could do that. But you talked earlier about your memory of this and how your family had Mark Harmon was something that was very important to you guys, memorable star. Watching this, it's immediate. He jumps off the screen. We talked about like American Idol. A couple notes out of somebody's mouth, you can hear they can sing. Mark Harmon is this leading man. He is charismatic. He's funny. He's undeniably, he's got BDE. He's got this heartthrob energy. And in summer school, his comedic timing, it's on point. It's better than a lot of the other 80s comedies. He's carrying this movie effortlessly. And I don't know, how did he not blow up? He's got the looks, the charm, the talent. Why did they not make him an A-list star? Did he pick shitty movies? Did he just never land that breakout role until later on when he found big success on TV and like NCIS? He's got everything. We recently had the guy who was in like The Lone Ranger with Johnny Depp. Army Hammer or Armin Hammer, whatever that dude's name was. They tried to make him the next big star because he was this good-looking guy. He wasn't half the charismatic leading man that Mark Harmon was, and he landed these big roles. Why didn't Mark?
I literally asked this question over the weekend. I was on a ride with our motorcycle garage, 1110, and like all the guys were hanging out. We were waiting for a table at a bar, and I said, "Hey guys, so we're doing summer school. Mark Harmon, I'm a big fan of his. Why was he not a bigger thing?" And overwhelmingly, first of all, people didn't ask me like, "Who's Mark Harmon?" They all knew, and overwhelmingly, they said he's not a good actor. And I thought that's weird. No. So that was a conversation I had before rewatching the movie. So watching the film through that prism, I realized that Mark Harmon, it's not that he's like a bad actor per se, but he's a lot like early Adam Sandler, where he's Mark Harmon in the movie. He's a guy navigating through the movie, but he isn't in the movie. If that makes sense, like he's like reacting to the events of the movie. You almost expect him to break the fourth wall over and over again, which he does and worth winning. But I agree with you. He is absolutely charming. My personal theory, though, is that it was his body. There's that scene where he's roller skating, and that is not a Gutenberg level body. It's a little out of shape.
No. I mean, it's not Gutenberg's, chiseled abs.
His shoulders are more narrow than his waist.
That's true, but still, he's that California beach bum surf guy. It's passable. Don't body shame him. I thought
I'm not trying to You're just asking why he wasn't a bigger star. Maybe it's because he wasn't hunky.
Then put a shirt on him. Don't roll him out there into the jail cell with no shirt on. Do you know what his nicknames are, Gene? The Silver Fox, the Quarterback, Papa Smurf, Gibbs, Charmin Harmon, and Papa Bear. So maybe that gray hair, the seasoned look took him from that burnout beach bum to more the professional. I don't know what he is in NCIS. To be honest, I've not seen the show once. Didn't Ash like that show?
I think she was a fan of it. I think she liked it. I know Carrie was a big fan of like police procedurals. I don't remember if Ash was, but I know he walked away from the show though. Like it was his choice. He didn't get fired or anything like that.
Oh, but he's got enough money. He's completely fine. Probably
he's like 73 years old, dude.
He was born in 51, so that makes him, he's in his 70s. Yeah. Good for him.
Unlike you, he was ready to retire.
That is true.
All he did was double his salary.
That is true. But the other star, Kirstie Alley. You want to talk about somebody who's gone through some ups and downs. Mark Harmon never made it. Kirstie Alley, for, maybe like Patrick and some of our younger listeners, they don't know much of her other than Cheers. This woman had many phases in her career. This is her younger days. She is peak 80s. She's young. She's full of life. She is ridiculously attractive, but I think at the same time natural. She doesn't look like fake Hollywood. She looks like that hot girl in your hometown who you want to go back and talk to again.
She's hot repeatedly in oversized denim shirts.
She makes all denim look good, like almost mom jeans. She wears two-tone denim, and it doesn't matter. She's got big hair that normally I would hate. And Robin, she plays the helpful teacher next door. It's Shoop's love interest, who is dating also the assistant vice principal or whatever he is. And it's crazy to think how she changed. She went from this hot next girl potentially. Then she had a point where she gained a lot of weight. She started getting different roles. Hollywood, she became the butt of some jokes. Then I think she lost some weight with some, whether it was Weight Watchers or one of those. She had some resurgence and she came back again. And watching her and Mark Harmon in these young, they're vibrant, they're alive in this movie. And it made me realize, because Kirstie's now passed, you just said that Mark is in his 70s, how much time has passed. And it just clicked, it hit me. You can feel the time moving when you see the people you remember watching on screen when you were young, and now they're either gone or old. This movie and these performances made me feel it.
Yeah, at my age, I was more familiar with Kirstie Alley from Cheers and then, those Jenny Craig ads. And I haven't met many movie stars in real life, but the few times that I have, usually like cons and stuff, I was always struck by how the camera does not do them justice. Every time I've seen like a real movie star, whether it's from television or film or even models, right? However good I thought they looked in a movie, they look so much better in real life. They have a magnetism, right? The it factor. These people in Hollywood are exceptionally beautiful and exceptionally charming. Knowing that extra, let's say 20 or 30% of attractiveness that a person gets when they're in real life, and then seeing Kirstie Alley flirt with Mark Harmon in summer school and that opening scene right off the bat, I am pretty confident that if I encountered her on the street or like at a restaurant or something like that, I would be rendered absolutely speechless. Like prime Kirstie Alley, I don't know if I could even form words.
I agree. There's something about her. She is the female version of Mark Harmon.
And again, she's not showing like skin in this
No.
movie at all. She's a teacher. She's completely covered up. At one point, she does like a blowjob hand gesture, and I had to adjust my spot on the couch. I was like, damn. Now I'm thinking about it. Well, on his first day, Shoop meets Robin Bishop, who's teaching American history next door. He falls for her, but she is already dating Gills. Shoop's first day is a disaster. Most of his students slack around, and Jerome goes to the bathroom and does not return. A beautiful Italian transfer student, Anna Maria, is transferred into the class, much to the delight of Dave and Chainsaw. Rather than studying, Shoop and the students spend their first few days having fun, going to the beach, a theme park, and a petting zoo, until Alan's grandmother tells Gills, who threatens to fire Shoop unless his students pass an end-of-term test.
So you already ran through the lineup. We've got the football player, the nerd, pregnant girl. We've got some other random nerd guys in the back. And then we've got the two main characters who we're going to follow and we're supposed to relate with here. It's Chainsaw and Dave. Guys are great. The guys are fun. They're loud. They're goofy. They love horror movies. So everything they do or talk about, they even reference at the movie, Gene.
Yeah.
Are, Siskel and Ebert, thumbs up.
Who?
They're giving our rating system, the origins of Shat the movie. And they're ridiculous. But I thought this was the first time I remember seeing these pairings. You normally get the two guys who aren't that bright. The blonde guy, the brunette guy, think like Wayne and Garth or Bill and Ted. This predates all of those 80s team ups, Chainsaw and Dave. They almost were like the blueprint. They're this perfect mix of dumb and lovable. They're not mean-spirited. They're not trying to just go out and get laid. They're not taking their life seriously, but you also have to respect them. They have a passion. You know these dudes, even without school, they're going to go to Hollywood. They're going to make it in special effects. The quality of the rabbit attack or the mass murder in the classroom at the end, it's quality work, and this is why it works for me. Summer School sets the stage for these two slackers, and it just makes everything that follows so easy to like and so easy to pull for them.
They were surprisingly developed as characters in this movie, right? They weren't just like throwaway guys. They had drinking problems. We got to see their home life a little bit. We got to see like what Chainsaw's dreams are like, and the movie really followed them perhaps more than any character other than Shoop himself. And I think Fast Times kind of set the prototype for this with like Spicoli's crew. But yeah, talking about a straight duo where we actually dive deep into who they are, I think Dave and Chainsaw, they're the absolute best part of this movie. They also, Big D, might be the blueprint for the White Man podcast, a tradition that we inexorably continue. I was watching that scene where they were telling Anna Maria about Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I was like, shit, this is what it's like when I hear someone explain our podcast. Like when someone introduces me, oh yeah, he's got this podcast, and they're telling somebody about it. And I'm like, oh, that's us. That we are Dave and Chainsaw.
We are like you really think Anna Marie cares about them breaking down the cinematography of Leatherface or his all flesh diet?
When I look at people's faces, when someone describes our podcast, I can read how disinterested they are in the subject matter. And also how skeptical they are that it would be worth listening to. I don't know if I would give us a shot if someone, based on the description of the podcast, right?
Well, generally, when somebody talks to me about the podcast, I do have a little bit of like an embarrassment, like,
yes,
oh my God,
same.
I'm not going to be judged at this. But the way I address it is I talk about, one, the films that surprised us, the ones that we have missed, the films that have surprised us in a bad way, that people remember them as this masterpiece and they're not, or the ones that are shocking. The normal one I'll say is, do you remember Revenge of the Nerds? The people go, yeah. I said, do you remember it ends in a rape? And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, you don't remember Gilbert or Lewis dressing up as Stan the quarterback and having sex? I'm like, that's rape by deception. Or talking about some of the shocking things that went on. That's normally the way I sell it. And at that, they're like, oh, that's kind of cool to go back and watch. But we're not going to break down the cinematography of a scene or what the director's intentions were. Hopefully not, at least.
Yeah, it's not our bag. I mean, I always emphasize the fact that I have no film training. I took like one semester of independent film, and that's it. But, learning by doing, we've done 400 something episodes of this. We've done Chat on TV. So we at least know how to podcast, sort of. And speaking of learning, I was always a nerd, Big D. I was a teacher's pet. I don't know if that's any surprise to anybody listening, but I never had a need to be motivated to study. I enjoyed studying. I studied for study's sake. But one thing that I've heard from lots of parents, as I get that age where most of my friends have kids now, is this repeated refrain that traditional education isn't like really the best fit for kids. I was in New Orleans talking to some of my friends, and they were going on about how the traditional schools, like, putting kids in groups of 30 or 40 in seats and having a school teacher have them memorize stuff and doing standardized tests and stuff like that. It's all a setup to create workers for an industrial age that we, by and large, have kind of gone beyond. And they're always hyping up stuff like project-based learning or self-paced learning or homeschooling. And I never really thought about that not having a kid. Like, it was a good fit for me going through normal school, but apparently not for everybody else. And I wonder, like, is that, as a parent in 2025, like, what are your thoughts on it?
I mean, I think it's better if we go back to when we were younger, before digital screens, digital whiteboards, iPads, computers. The entire class had to be taught at one pace. Kids would fall behind. Kids who knew it would be bored. You could only teach at one pace. Now I think with digital learning, with apps at home, quizzes and learning programs that you can take online, it allows kids that are maybe a little more advanced to continue to be challenged, or the kids that are falling behind to not be completely lost. So I think that stuff is better. And also, you mentioned some of the classroom sizes. Emma, we're lucky. Her class is 15 kids.
15?
15. There's other classes in Florida where we hear 35 kids to one teacher.
That's what I had growing up, yeah.
So we're lucky in that she gets, essentially double the attention than a normal kid would. But
yeah,
the mistake, I think, is if parents think school is going to take care of it for them. You have to sit with them. You have to talk to them. Like Emma yesterday did some math homework, and she did miserably. It was fractions and advanced fractions and pie graphs, and she's starting to get into some conceptual stuff that is new for her. So she did it on her own, and she got like a 50. So then I went through it again with her and talked her through it. She retook the test with new questions and got 100. And it made me feel guilty that I don't do that all the time, that I should make the time to sit with her because that will make the difference. Her and I try to go at least, every other month. The Orlando Science Center has a free weekend if you have a Bank of America card. So you can go there for free. It's a lot of hands-on learning. I would rather her learn concepts over rote memorization of facts any day. But who knows? We'll see how we'll see what the world looks like when they go into the workforce. Who knows what you're going to need? If a kid learned coding 5 years ago, you're like, hell yeah, this is guaranteed. This is like a word processor. In New York City in the 80s, you were guaranteed to make big money. Now, coding, AI can do it quicker than any human. Who knows?
Yeah, I was telling the story the other day about how I studied journalism in college, and the common knowledge at the time was that if you were going to be a copy editor, you can move anywhere in the world and have a job, because every newspaper out there needs a copy editor. And it's a job nobody wants to do, and it's a job I really love doing. Guess what? There are no newspapers anymore. So thankfully I was able to transition to marketing. But I mean, I do think you're right that like it's very hard to train somebody for a specific job anymore, because that job's probably not going to be there or the same when they grow up. But I'm fascinated by the fact that classrooms look so similar to what they did 40 years ago, considering like how much has changed in the process. Well, with Alan's suggestion, Shoop negotiates with each teen to grant them a favor if they study. The kids agree, so Shoop gives Denise driving lessons. He accompanies Rhonda to Lamaze classes. He gives Kevin football lessons. He allows Dave and Chainsaw to throw a party in his house, and he gives them rides to school. He gives Larry a bed in the classroom. He lets Chainsaw arrange a screening of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre in class, and he allows Pam to move in with him. Seeing he is still floundering as a teacher, Robin tells Shoop to make learning fun, bringing him closer to the kids. So we finally reached the point in the movie where Shoop is teaching lessons about practical things in life, meeting the kids where they are. And there's a scene in summer school where Shoop wants to teach the kids how to write a defective product complaint letter using a template that's in their textbooks. And Big D, I found that so quaint. Like, imagine you got a pair of sunglasses and they're broken, or like you got a ceiling fan that isn't working or something, and you just go get a piece of paper and a pen, you write your complaint on it, you address it in an envelope to a singular address, and then you mail it. And then you just go about your life and you wait for a response. There's no trying to figure out, does the company have a website? Oh, no. Okay, do they have one? Okay, they got a website. Is there a form on the website or an email address? Or do I have to talk to a chat bot? Do I have to search that site for a phone number, or realize maybe the company doesn't even have a website? You got to go to their Instagram account and they've got an autoresponder. And then I started thinking bigger picture, right? My head started spinning because I was like, wait, shit, all those mechanisms that I just described, they need to be set up and maintained by guys like us, guys in marketing departments and developers and ISPs. And yeah, it's faster to get a response, but I don't know if it's any better because we have to learn all of those things, and all of our jobs are so much more complicated. I'm in marketing and I have to know now about, Google Search Console and GA4 and Google Tag Manager and meta tags and pixels. Back in the day, it was like, let's run a TV ad. Let's put something in the radio or in the newspaper, call up a designer, right? Things change so fast. Things are so complicated. I'm like, are we happier? Like, they all seem to be having a great time in 1987. What the fuck have we done?
No, I think we've fucking messed it all up. Everything is about dopamine rush now. It's ordering stuff online, getting it the next day, trying it on, returning it, getting the next things, throwing it out, ordering something else, doing research. It's crazy. Our expectations are unrealistic. We no longer value the time and effort it took to do something, even to go out to the shop or to go look for something or hunt for a piece of knowledge. Now you just Google it. It used to be that you'd have to research it a bit and put some sweat into the game, put a little skin in the game to go find it. Now, I remember, Gene, I was a big G.I. Joe fan. You would have to collect the little points on the back of the card, right? You'd clip them out, and I remember you'd send them in. I remember sending away for Cobra Commander. I remember sending away for Sergeant Slaughter, and I remember sending away for Destro. I never knew when they were going to come. Every day I would run home and look at the mailbox. It wasn't there. Oh, okay. The next day, maybe today will be the day. I'd run to the mailbox. It wasn't there. But the day it came, I was so happy. That is lost today. Nobody gets joy out of waiting. Everything is immediate. It's something I deal with Emma. But again, maybe that's because we're old. Yeah, everybody's going to reminisce about the old days. Maybe it's for us, I think this sucks because there's no longer enjoyment in any of it.
The thing that I'm guilty of that I really get mad at myself about is doing online research to find the best of something as opposed to just discovering a thing near me. And an example of that is if I wanted to go out and get, I don't know, Chinese food, right? I'm going to go on Yelp and Google Maps or go to the newspaper website or whatever and try to find out what's the best Chinese. And it might be 40 minutes from me, right? And I'll get in the car and I'll drive over there, passing by 5 or 6 restaurants that are Chinese restaurants that maybe they're not that great, but they're good enough. And some guy owns that business. Some guy's trying to, or gal owns that business and is just trying to make a living. And maybe I could have formed a bond with that. Maybe that guy's my neighbor, something like that. And you just give that up. And again, thinking back to the 80s, it was I remember distinctly as a kid, it was where'd you go to pizza? You went to the place by your apartment. Where did you go for groceries? To the grocery store that was nearby, right? It didn't have to be the best. It was good enough.
And this is the debate that we just recently had. We are going for Emma's spring break. We're taking her to Tokyo. So Emma on her own has been researching things to do, Japanese traditions, places we should visit, places we should eat, activities. And my sister-in-law said, Emma, stop. You're going to look all these things up. You've learned about them. You've seen them. The only thing you'll find possibly is disappointment. Can it live up to what you expected? Yeah. Or to just go and walk around and find your way, find the unexpected, be surprised. Don't try to live up to. We've talked about before, living up to the digital experience, whether it was online dating or restaurants and reviews. So I don't know. I'm kind of torn in between the two.
While we're on the old man bus, I want to talk about Shoop's Ford Falcon. So I'm sure you've seen the meme going around that says we're as far from the 80s now as the 80s were from World War II. And you've talked about, if this was a podcast in the 80s, it would have been about movies from the 50s. In this movie, Shoop is letting Denise, one of the students, learn to drive on his car, which is a 1964 Ford Falcon. And I'm looking at this car. I'm like, oh, it's convertible. It's like a classic. And I'm like, why would Shoop, who somehow got this super cool car, why would he put this girl behind the wheel of his classic automobile? And then it dawned on me, this is 1987. So that car was 23 years old. And Big D, that would be the equivalent of a 2002 Ford Focus today, right? Like if a teacher drove, which would be normal for a teacher maybe to have a 2002 Ford Focus. Shoop's car in 1987, it wasn't cool. It wasn't desirable. This was an entry-level old car that you'd see all the time on the streets. It'd be really easy to find. And that's the point the movie was trying to make. And to me, I was wowed by this like Mr. Miyagi car, No, it was a piece of shit.
Yeah, but it was convertible. Come on. Maybe not a Ford Focus. Maybe a convertible, even Miata. Let's go with a Miata.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's a cool, fun, inexpensive California.
No, but a Miata's a sports car.
I don't really.
Yeah,
really, Gene.
It is.
No. That's not a. What kind of sport are you talking about? That's like saying
car racing.
That's like saying a Vespa is like a street bike. No,
it's a scooter.
Yes, exactly. No, I don't think so. But I feel like the asshole here because I don't let almost anyone drive my car. Vanessa can drive it, of course, but I need to have, if a friend's going to drive it, I have to have 100% trust in their physical ability. It's people who don't walk around dropping things, banging things, someone who I can trust their physical ability. And then I need you to have good decision making. You're not going to get drunk. You're not going to not paying attention to what's going on. Those are my rules.
Is your car insured?
It is.
And you still have the Ford Flex?
It's not a Ford. It's a Ford Edge. Yes, it's a 2014.
Ford Edge, I'm sorry.
It's a 2014 Ford Edge. So it's, but now I'm at the point where it's paid off. It's still in good shape. But if something happens to it, then I'm going to end up having to get something new. I'm back into a car payment. So no, I do care about it because they're not going to fix it at this point.
So I got a confession to make. I thought like a year or two ago that you told me you drove a Ford Flex. I've told everyone that you drive a Ford Flex. I literally told Scott H. I had dinner with him the other night for Mardi Gras. I told him you drive a Ford Flex. And I've always, when I close my eyes and envision you when you're telling stories, when you call me from the road, you're in a Ford Flex. This is blowing my mind right now.
No, it's a Ford Edge 2015 or 2014 Sports. So it's the last year before they did the model upgrade. It's got the 22-inch sport rims. It's a good-looking car. I still like it. But again, I won't let anybody drive it unless I trust their physical ability and their alertness. And that's why now, 11 years in, it's got almost no dings. It still looks pretty good. And 120,000 miles into it, it's still a pretty good car.
Do you let Vanessa drive it?
Of course.
Would you let me drive it?
Of course.
Oh, that's nice.
Yes, you lent me your EV. I trust your physical abilities and your mental acuity and alertness.
Yeah, I'm a motorcyclist. You can trust motorcyclists.
I don't think that's a good example, but I would trust you.
They have to be on point. It's their lives at stake every day.
No, I would trust you. I would trust
Thank
you.
you. I appreciate that.
But as far as like the movie goes, talking about trusting people, Shoop, good guy. I think he's a down-to-earth, California bum teacher. He's a solid dude. He's giving the kids wisdom. He's trying to give them a chance to learn and to pass. But for all the wisdom, Gene, talk about bad moves. He's letting people drive his car. He makes some dumb moves along the way. Pam is the most dangerous. And now we're looking at it maybe through the 2024. We're past the Me Too and all of the accusations. And now everything is accusations. Now you have to be careful because of just the environment we live in. I would not want to be single here. You are a teacher. You are now having an underage female student move into your house. This is a huge liability, even though he seems to be a good guy. He's not doing anything wrong. But all it takes is someone to mention this to the police, to a family member, to someone who's going to get it wrong. And this isn't a long line of questionable moves. This is by far the worst. And that includes getting kid drunk at his house. He then takes an alcohol charge for Dave and Chainsaw. He goes into jail. He then also has them over his house. They set fire to his couch. There's fireworks inside. There's beer. There's a lot of bad decisions. But this Pam thing could have gone so wrong. She leans towards being hurt and almost as if she wants to make Shoop pay. It could have gone really wrong. Would you ever risk, Gene? You'd probably let people over, have a party, have all that. Would you ever let an underage girl live in your house?
Underage, no. I did at one point. So Justin, who you met at the wedding, Justin and I had a friend, Jana, and Jana was in the Air Force. She was stationed at Beale Air Force Base when I was living in Marysville, California. And she got kicked out of the Air Force for drugs. Didn't have a place to go. They kicked her off base. She couldn't go home because she didn't want to tell her parents like what had happened. And so she needed a place to crash. She was an adult, but, you know, younger and had some substance abuse issues, you know. Well, I shouldn't say substance abuse. She used illicit substances, right? And so that's the closest I came. But even that scenario was precarious because it's like, you're a dude, it's a younger woman, they're living in your place, and things get blurred, right? And nothing happened between us, and she was, you know, there were clear boundaries there. But in hindsight, like that probably wasn't the smartest idea, right? Knowing what I knew at the time, I barely knew her. I knew that she got kicked out of the Air Force. She told me what for, but I didn't have anywhere to validate that. And I was letting her live in my home, even when I wasn't there, right? Rent free. Not a great idea. Summer school did a really smart thing by not just looking at the sexual aspect of this relationship too, which made it, you know, so much more intelligent. So you've got this Lolita situation. Pam thinks that Shoop is this mature guy that she's attracted to. They're both surfers and they got so much in common. And she's coming on to him, you know, she keeps, you know, intimating that she wants to be intimate, getting in bed with him and stuff like that. And he wisely gets up out of bed. Okay, let's go back to the party, you know, but he also knows for sure that he is playing with fire, and he doesn't get clear of that. Yes, there is the obvious sexual attraction to a fit young surfer girl. Like, he's acknowledging that. You see the way he looks at her. He's thinking about it for sure. But even without anything physical happening between Shoop and Pam, she's playing housewife in his apartment. Okay. She gets territorial when Robin, who he is interested in, who is age appropriate, comes to visit. And he knows the longer he drags it out, the more it's going to hurt her, but he delays that rejection, right? So it's definitely a dumb move. However, Big D, I do think, this is Gene writing some fanfic here, eventually they end up together after she graduates.
That's possible.
They got too much in common.
But I think, Gene, if Robin didn't come in and shame Shoop a little bit and remind him about, you know, you don't have to just hurt her physically, just hurt her emotionally, he may have let that go along further. She's cleaning his apartment. She's cooking like some kick-ass dinners.
Mm-hmm.
The place looks good. His clothes smells better than ever. In Hard Bodies, you remember Hard Bodies? When they would get girls to come in and clean the apartment, they would just milk it to the very end. Here, I think Shoop is a good guy. He wouldn't have had sex with her until she was legal, but I think he would have let her stay there for maybe 6, 10, 12 months. Playing house and making his life easier. And I couldn't have faulted him for that.
I'm also not going to say like boys will be boys or anything like that, but you live with a woman, a girl in this case, but like you live with a female in the same space at the beach for long enough. Like, don't put yourself in that situation.
No, what a different world, Gene. A gym teacher has got that apartment on the beach and drives that convertible. Life, you could have a good life in 87 by just working a regular 9 to 5.
While covering for Chainsaw and Dave after they are found in possession of alcohol, Shoop is arrested. He desperately calls Robin, and she and Gills bail him out of jail. Gills reiterates his dislike of Shoop and his students, causing Robin to storm off, and Larry loses his stripper job. When the students make more demands on Shoop, he throws an English book against the chalkboard and quits his job in anger. His students start feeling guilty and scare off Shoop's dull replacement with a scene reminiscent of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Finding Shoop moping on the beach eating ice cream, they ask him to return, and he accepts. Big D, one thing we really haven't talked about in this movie is the writing. And in a movie filled with 80s tropes and sight gags like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre reenactment to scare off a teacher, I was pleased to discover that Summer School's dialogue really holds up, even in 2025. It's a well-written movie. Chainsaw drops lines like, "Oh joy, I have a boner now." And when he's asked what he wants in exchange for studying, he's like, your car, your house, and your dog. Shoop describes himself openly as like very challenged. And Gills says he's a heterosexual and a damn good one. Like, this movie is oddly quotable. It's so much fun to quote. And I'm always proud of a film that doesn't have to hit you over the head with the funny lines. It has so many good lines that it has the luxury of having some delivered under a character's breath or in the background. There's layers to the dialogue happening here, and it's really impressive.
And they never come at the expense of any other characters. They're all good-spirited. They're all funny. You have Shoop when he gets in his roller skates and he takes the charge for the guys with the alcohol, and they roll him into the cell, and it's a bunch of hard guys. And he says, "Ooh, do you guys have a cell for beginners?" And they close the door behind him. Or the famous scene in the photo, like the little photo lab.
Yes.
Where you have Chainsaw and Dave, and they're going through people's photos, and they're like, "Oh, it's the redhead, round English muffin, square butter, triangular bush. The man's an artist." The dudes are good, and the lines are funny. When Dave or Chainsaw fails the test, the driving test, he says, "I stayed sober for this." And then the driving instructor starts to walk away and he yells, "Hey, come back here, you dumb dildo." The delivery of the lines is funny. Or the whole Jerome Watson thing. Day one, he goes to the bathroom. He disappears for the entire summer. Test day comes. He walks back up. And Shoop says, "Where you been?" And Jerome goes, "The bathroom." He goes, "For the last 6 weeks? Yeah, my zipper was stuck." The delivery, the lines, they're very, very funny.
The callback is so brilliant, too, because he says bathroom, and then he still has the bathroom pass in his hand. This giant bathroom pass that says bathroom. It's brilliant. Well, Shoop and his students then begin preparing for the test in earnest, and even Jerome returns. The exam goes smoothly despite Rhonda going into labor during the test. Gills tells Shoop the average of grades was below passing, indicating a failure, so he is ready to fire him. However, the students' parents come to defend him. Due to each of the students' marked improvement, Principal Kelvin grants Shoop tenure. Shoop returns to the beach with his dog, Wonder Mutt, and Robin. He asks her to a dinner date for the last time, and she accepts at last, kissing him in the sunset.
So, Gene, earlier we talked about the fact that we're not professional podcasters, but when you do something enough, when you go over a threshold of a couple thousand hours, you start to see patterns, you start to expect things, you start to see things that are out of the norm. So 80s movies, high school, you know what they're going to pull. The students, they're going to rally together at the end, whether it's the nerds, they're going to win the Greek week competition, they're going to take command of the student council, whatever it's going to be, they're going to somehow band together and use their differences and their uniqueness to win the day. But that's not fucking real, Gene. Teenagers, they don't have any power. Maybe today they do, because kids know they can threaten to call the police and say their parents are abusing them or whatever. But here in summer school, this flips the script. Earlier in the movie, when Shoop goes to court, the kids come to speak on his behalf. So at the end of the movie, where now Gills has got him. Gills is running through the list. "I caught you this. He's done. And we hear a knock at the door, and in comes the students. And I'm like, oh, no, we're going to get this again. The same rehash of them giving their side of the story and coming to advocate for Shoop. No, it's the parents. The parents come in. And they're the ones who the school is going to listen to. And they show the difference that Shoop has made in their kids' life. And instead of some cheesy last-minute miracle where all the kids pass the test, we start seeing them going off to college and they realize how their lives could be much better. That's not real world. These kids, only a couple of them pass. Most of them, or actually all of them, improve. And we see that they now have a chance to do something better with themselves. They're not going to be stuck in their hole. Shoop doesn't win like some big teaching competition. Nobody looks at him like he is some great educator. He's not a teaching genius. He just did enough of a job to show these kids that they have a chance to earn his tenure. It is a surprisingly grounded and simple ending to the film that's plausible, realistic. I mean, I don't know. I think that they still would have fired him because of the liability to the school. Yeah. But the parents coming and advocating for this guy, and the changes he made in the kids, it felt good. It was a feel-good ending and a realistic ending to a movie that could have gone a very other traditional way.
Honestly, Big D, I think it's more realistic that the kids could get non-failing grades after an entire summer of studying remedial English than everybody's parents showed up to speak on Shoop's behalf. But that aside, this scene was a little bit troubling because Shoop revealed everyone's grades to the whole room, like their test scores. That's a FERPA violation. You can't tell other parents and other students what a student's test scores were.
What the fuck is a FERPA?
It's like yeah.
Come on. Tell me what it is. What is a FERPA? Federal Education Rights and Privacy Act.
Hey, I think that's right. Check me on that.
I disagree with you. I think the parents do show up because it's a chance to get the kids out of the house. If the kids continue to learn and they can find motivation and Shoop can lead them to maybe go to college, maybe get back on the football team, get a scholarship, maybe learn a trade, that's the only way these kids are going to move out of their parents' house.
Well, as you said, Big D, we have watched thousands of hours of film. And generally speaking, I'm not the biggest fan of a happy ending, although I do like an ensemble ending. And as this movie drew to a close with a happy ending, I didn't mind. And I started reflecting on, why did this movie make me feel so good? Why am I so on board with this? And I realized that this movie represents how I thought life would be when I was a kid. It's all those things that we saw in film and on television about what high school was going to be like, what life was going to be like, that a teacher would care about their students and that a teacher could afford a beach house and that friends who met in summer school would still hang out and care about each other's lives and chill on the beach. And nobody would judge that pregnant girl in class. They'd be supportive of her and ask her how she's doing and want to know her story. And that most of all, students would have big ass lockers, right? That's what high school was supposed to be. And it led me to a new belief and a new way of watching film, which is I feel like we should use film when it's a situation we like as an inspiration for the world we want to build, right? Because all those things are possible. All the things I mentioned, you could make happen in the real world, right? If we decide they could be possible. And so maybe as we watch these 80s movies and we think, wow, what a simpler time, or wow, you're telling me that this guy can afford a beach house. Why shouldn't a teacher afford a beach house? I think we should make that world a reality.
I thought you were going to talk about the three-way kiss, Gene.
With the dog?
The makeout.
I do that shit all the time.
With Pam, Shoop, and Wonder Mutt.
Mm-hmm.
There was some tongue action on all three of them that you could see them breaking. You could see the look on their face that it wasn't supposed to go that way. But again, Gene, it was fun.
I don't mind a dog kissing me on the mouth. I'm okay with that. But Wonder Mutt pulled Bob's head out of the ocean. Like, who knows what filth was on that toy? And then to give you a kiss? I don't know. If June is licking her asshole, we got to wait a couple hours before we're doing any kissing. You know? You don't know where that's been.
Oh, you know exactly where it's been.
Yeah, it's been her asshole.
It's been in her ass.
Well, now's the time in the podcast where we give our Shat score for Summer School. The Shat scores are our way to telling you how many wipes this movie takes to get off your respective butts. 0 wipes is a perfect movie. It's when your laundry is April fresh. And 5 wipes is an absolute disaster of a film. It's when your parents stop having kids because of you. I'll go first, Big D. This movie is ridiculously simple. It's formulaic, but it is so likable. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say it is better than The Breakfast Club. It is better than Fast Times at Ridgemont High. This might be my favorite 80s high school movie. I'm giving it 1 wipe.
Wow, that's crazy talk. It's fun.
What I said.
I don't think it's realistic, right? It's fun. It's almost as if it's like High School Movie light. It's not trying to deal with The Breakfast Club. You had more of the stratifications of the different social groups, parents that abuse their kids, dependency on substances. It was darker. Same Fast Times at Ridgemont High was more racism. There was nothing negative in these kids' lives. It was all a bunch of fun, silly antics. It's not breaking new ground. It's jokes. It's some silly, dog makeout session, or Chainsaw and Dave's killer bunny prank at the zoo. It's chaos. It's inappropriate humor, but it's not mean. You got the whole nude conversation we talked about with the bagels, the bush, and the man being an artist. It's juvenile. It's fun, but it's good spirited. I don't think it's as groundbreaking as some of the other 80s high school films that we've done, but it is an enjoyable experience. It makes you wish, Gene, that this is the way life could be. Yeah. Good friends, good times.
16-year-olds that want to fuck you.
Yes, clean your house, make you dinner, and bang you and do your laundry. You know, it's all good things. I think 1.25 wipes. It was a fun trip back to 87 in a simpler time.
All right, with 1 wipe from me and 1 1/4 wipes from Big D, that gives us an average wipe score of 1.125 wipes for 1987's Summer School.
So, Gene, with a score of, is that really right? 1.12? Yeah. Shit. So, Gene, with a score of 1.125 wipes, that now places this in the 90 spot. It is, dude, I think
it broke 100. Let's go.
This is kind of crazy,
Harmon, baby.
No, this is. Is the math correct? I think we need. I don't know about this. Right?
All right. So 1 plus 1.25 equals 2.25. Divided by 2 is 1.125.
Oh, I don't know. I think this is where this is the rare occurrence where I think we are hurt without an outlier, without the third voice.
A curmudgeon?
Because now this is on its own in the 90 spot, slightly better than RoboCop, Breakfast Club, Shawshank Redemption. Yeah, slightly worse than Brewster's Million, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, Better Off Dead, Karate Kid, and Heat.
Okay, so first of all, what you're not counting for is that scores that might have dragged movies like RoboCop down, right? Because I would argue RoboCop is a better movie, but I think I gave RoboCop a better score, whereas others may not have.
It was Cary Gross.
Cary Gross. No hate for Carrie, just saying.
3.75. That's a travesty.
Come on, man.
That's a travesty. And again, so Breakfast Club was right there. 1.5, 1.5. Shawshank was done in by, I believe, Gene Lyons. Who gave
Shawshank's overrated. Mm-hmm. I agree with that. I agree with me.
I mean, it's in that area. Is it as, like you said, is it groundbreaking as some of these other films? It's
vibes. Just vibes.
Good vibes. Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
It's like Shoop and Pam talking about that wave. Mm-hmm. You're sitting out there and you're watching that wave and you're going to catch that
glass.
Wave. It is. It's like glass.
Yeah. All right. Well, Patrick, looks like your nostalgia glasses came through on this one, and just about 1 wipe is where we ended up. So thank you so much for the commission. And speaking of commissions, Big D, what do we have coming up next week?
Gene, next week we're going on the run when meek housewife Thelma joins her friend Louise, an independent waitress, on a short fishing trip. However, their trip becomes a flight from the law when Louise shoots and kills a man who tries to rape Thelma at a bar. Louise decides to flee to Mexico, and Thelma joins her. On the way, Thelma falls for a young, sexy thief, J.D., and the sympathetic detective, Slocum, tries to convince the two women to surrender before their fates are sealed. Commissioned by Rachel C., came out in 91. And this is an iconic film with a very young and sexy other leading man who became more successful than Mark Harmon, Brad Pitt.
All right. Well, thank you, Rachel, for commissioning the upcoming movie. Thank you, Patrick, for commissioning Summer School. Thank you to all the commissioners who make this podcast possible. That concludes this week's episode of Shat the Movies. Be sure to follow us on social media and share with a friend. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram at Shat the Movies. You can email us, host@shatpod.com. Support the podcast by shopping our Amazon affiliate link, buying our merch, or by commissioning your own movie. Find all the information by visiting our website, shatpod.com. Also, check out our sister podcast, Shat on TV, where we review TV series such as Lovecraft Country, Westworld, True Detective, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, and Watchmen. Find all the information on our website, shatpod.com/TV, wherever fine podcasts can be found, including Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe, and if you stop by Apple Podcasts, please leave a 5-star review. It helps the podcast grow. On behalf of my co-host, Big D, I'm Gene Lyons. Join us next week for the following movie.
Thelma.
I'll get it!
Thelma, have not told you I can't stand it when you holler in the morning?
I'm sorry, doll. I just didn't want you to be late.
Hey, how you doing, little housewife?
Louise.
Yeah, I still have to ask Daryl if I can go.
You mean you haven't asked him yet? Thelma, is he your husband or your father?
Thelma and Louise are going fishing.
How come Daryl let you go?
Because I didn't ask him.
He's gonna kill you!
I left him a note.
Thelma and Louise are going to catch hell.
I'll have a wild turkey straight up and a Coke back, please.
Thelma!
Oh, what? Tell me something. Is this my vacation or isn't it?
see his butt.
Thelma, have you lost your mind?
I'm investigator Hal Slocum, Arkansas State Police.
You get your butt back here, Thelma, now.
As you know, we've tapped your phone.
What?
Maybe you got a few too many parking tickets.
Thelma, what happened?
You're getting in deeper every moment you're gone. You want to step back and get in your car again, please?
I swear, 3 days ago, neither one of us would have ever pulled a stunt like this, but if you was ever to meet my husband, you'd understand why.
What?
Boys, shoot the radio. The police radio, Louise.
Got it.
Thelma and Louise.
How do you like the vacation so far? We'll be drinking margaritas by the sea, Mamacita.